What if one of the most controversial figures in Little People, Big World, wasn't just misunderstood, but was quietly influencing events behind the scenes all along? For years, fans have debated Chandler's role in personal life. But now, a resurfaced online claim has reignited controversy, one that alleges may have interfered with a much younger woman said to be connected to years before their relationship ever became public. Was this jealousy, a protective instinct, or is this yet another explosive rumor fueled by long-standing fan divisions and unanswered questions? Today, we're breaking down exactly what's being claimed, where these allegations came from, why so many viewers believe there may be more to the story, and most importantly, what can actually be versus what remains speculation. Over the past few years, Chandler has become one of the most polarizing figures in the Little People, Big World universe. To some viewers, she appears as steady, supportive partner, someone who stepped into his life during a complicated chapter and helped him move forward. To others, however, her presence has always felt more complicated, raising long-standing questions about influence, timing, and control behind the scenes. Recently, online discussions and fan forums have resurfaced an old allegation involving a much younger woman, reportedly 22 years old at the time, who was allegedly close to years before his relationship with became public. According to fan-driven theories, may have viewed this woman as a threat and is accused of playing a role in pushing her out of life. Now, before we go any further, it's critical to be absolutely clear. These are allegations, not confirmed facts. There are no official statements, no legal records, and no evidence proving that this situation ever occurred exactly as described. What exists instead is a pattern of speculation, stories repeated, reshaped, and amplified by years of tension, silence, and unresolved fan distrust. So that raises an important question. If there's no proof, why do so many fans find these claims believable? Why do these theories continue to resurface long after they should have faded away? To understand that, we need to look at history within the family, the timing of key relationships, and the reasons why perception, fair or not, has played such a powerful role in shaping this controversy. Chandler's place within the Little People, Big World story has never been simple. From the moment viewers became aware of her relationship with, questions began forming, not necessarily because of anything publicly said or did, but because of when and how that relationship appeared to begin. For many longtime fans, the timing raised eyebrows. Was already a familiar presence around farms before and Amy's marriage officially ended, and although no confirmed wrongdoing has ever been established, the emotional overlap was enough to leave viewers uneasy. In reality TV, perception matters just as much as fact, and that perception has followed ever since. Over time, this unease evolved into a broader belief among some fans that holds significant influence over choices. From business decisions involving the farm to personal relationships within the family, viewers have often speculated that voice carries weight behind closed doors. Again, this is speculation, not proof, but it's a narrative that has taken root over years of observation and silence. What's important to understand is that these suspicions didn't appear overnight. They were shaped gradually, fueled by moments where fans felt conversations were avoided, explanations were vague, or tensions were left unresolved on screen. When clarity is missing, audiences tend to fill in the gaps themselves, and those gaps often turn into theories. So when new rumors surface suggesting manipulation, interference, or hidden influence, they don't emerge in isolation. They land on a foundation already built from years of complicated dynamics, emotional history, and unanswered questions. Whether fair or not, Chandler has become a focal point for that unresolved tension, making her, in the eyes of many fans, a figure people instinctively question rather than trust. And that context matters, because without understanding why fans are skeptical, it's impossible to understand why these rumors continue to gain traction, even in the absence of evidence. According to long-running fan speculation, was allegedly involved with a much younger woman years ago, someone some viewers have gone so far as to label. It's important to be clear from the outset. There has never been any public confirmation that such an engagement existed. No announcement, no photographs, no social media posts, no legal filings. The term itself appears to be a label created entirely within fan communities rather than something grounded in verifiable fact. So where did this claim come from? Supporters of the theory point to what they describe as indirect clues, vague comments made in older interviews, moments of visible tension captured on camera, and reports of off-camera dynamics shared secondhand by fans. None of these elements, on their own, prove a relationship, let alone an engagement. But when taken together, they created enough ambiguity for some viewers to believe there was more happening behind the scenes than what the show ever revealed. Online forums and comment sections played a major role in shaping the narrative. One person would raise a question, another would add a personal interpretation, and soon speculation began to sound like shared knowledge. Over time, repetition gave the story weight. The lack of concrete information didn't slow the rumor, it fueled it. In spaces where uncertainty exists, imagination often fills the gaps. It's also worth noting how powerfully reality TV influences perception. Because audiences feel deeply familiar with the family, even small inconsistencies or unexplained moments can feel meaningful. Fans begin to analyze body language, tone, and timing, treating silence as confirmation rather than absence of evidence. In this case, ambiguity became a blank canvas onto which an entire storyline was projected. Ultimately, what we're left with is not proof, but a case study in how rumors evolve. A combination of unanswered questions, emotional investment, and online amplification transformed an unverified idea into a widely discussed belief. Whether there was ever a younger woman involved in life in the way fans describe remains unknown. But the way the rumor took shape says far more about internet culture and fandom than it does about confirmed reality. What if one of the most controversial figures in Little People, Big World, wasn't just misunderstood, but was quietly influencing events behind the scenes all along? For years, fans have debated Caryn Chandler's role in Matt Roloff's personal life. But now, a resurfaced online claim has reignited controversy, one that alleges Caryn may have interfered with a much younger woman said to be connected to Matt years before their relationship ever became public. Was this jealousy, a protective instinct, or is this yet another explosive rumor fueled by long-standing fan divisions and unanswered questions? Today, we're breaking down exactly what's being claimed, where these allegations came from, why so many viewers believe there may be more to the story, and most importantly, what can actually be verified versus what remains speculation. One of the reasons these allegations have gained traction isn't because of hard evidence, but because of how reality television conditions its audience to read between the lines. Shows like Little People, Big World rarely spell everything out. Instead, they rely on lingering looks, awkward pauses, unexplained distance between cast members, and conversations that feel carefully edited. Over time, viewers learn to interpret what isn't said just as much as what is. When fans notice sudden shifts, relationships cooling without explanation, people disappearing from the narrative, or tension that's never directly addressed, the human instinct is to fill in the blanks. That's where speculation thrives. In this case, the lack of clear information about certain moments in Matt's personal life leaves room for assumptions to take root, especially among longtime viewers who feel they know these people after watching them for years. Caryn Chandler's public image also plays a role. She has always maintained a relatively reserved, guarded presence on camera. She rarely addresses controversy head-on, and when criticism arises online, she tends to remain silent. For some viewers, that silence feels like dignity. For others, it feels evasive. Neither interpretation is provably correct, but ambiguity invites interpretation, and interpretation easily becomes suspicion. Matt Roloff's relationship history adds another layer. His marriage to Amy, their eventual divorce, and the complicated emotional overlap that fans believe occurred before that relationship fully ended have left lasting impressions. Even years later, many viewers still view events through the lens of loyalty to Amy Roloff. That emotional attachment doesn't fade easily, and it shapes how new information, or rumors, are received. For fans who already believe Amy was wronged, it doesn't take much for a new allegation to feel plausible. A rumor doesn't need proof if it aligns with an existing narrative people have already accepted. Confirmation bias quietly takes over. Details that fit the story are amplified, while details that contradict it are dismissed or ignored. Social media accelerates this effect. Once a theory gains momentum online, repetition alone can make it feel real. A comment becomes a post becomes a video becomes something everyone is talking about. Over time, familiarity replaces verification, and speculation begins to feel like truth simply because it's been heard so often. But this is where a critical distinction must be made. Feeling believable does not make something factual. Emotional logic is not the same as evidence. A storyline that makes sense to viewers is not the same as one that can be proven. Reality TV blurs the line between real life and constructed narrative, and that blur can be dangerous when it comes to reputations. The absence of answers does not automatically mean guilt, and silence is not confirmation. In the end, the credibility of these allegations rests not on how convincing they feel, but on what can actually be verified. And so far, that verification simply does not exist. At this point in the story, it's necessary to pause and strip away the emotion, the speculation, and the assumptions that have fueled this controversy. Because when you examine what can actually be verified, the picture becomes far less sensational. Here, what cannot be ignored. There has never been a confirmed engagement involving Matt Roloff and a 22-year-old woman. No announcements. No photos. No legal filings. No first-hand accounts from anyone directly involved. The label fiancé exists entirely within fan interpretation, not documented fact. Likewise, no evidence has ever surfaced proving that Caryn Chandler sabotaged a relationship. There are no messages, no recorded conversations, no witnesses willing to go on the record, and no statements from Matt, Caryn, or the alleged woman herself suggesting interference of any kind. In fact, no one at the center of this rumor has ever publicly acknowledged that such a situation even existed. There are also no records, financial, legal, or otherwise, that confirm any form of wrongdoing. No police reports, no court documents, no verified investigations. Every serious claim associated with this rumor collapses when subjected to basic fact-checking. So what does exist? What exists is a narrative built over time, shaped by unresolved resentment, emotional loyalty to Amy Roloff, and years of distrust toward Caryn Chandler that began long before these specific allegations ever surfaced. Reality television plays a powerful role here. Viewers are trained to read between the lines, a pause in conversation, an uncomfortable silence, a relationship shift that happens off camera. When explanations aren't provided, imagination fills the gaps. And once a theory fits an emotional expectation, it can feel true, even without proof. This doesn't mean viewers are wrong to question power dynamics or timelines. Skepticism is natural, especially when relationships begin in ethically complicated circumstances. But skepticism is not the same as evidence. Right now, the reality is simple but uncomfortable. This story has no confirmed villain, no verified victim, no proven crime. What remains is perception, shaped by years of tension, editing choices, and a fan base deeply invested in a family they feel they know, even though they only see fragments. And that distinction, between what feels believable and what can be proven, is where this entire controversy ultimately rests. At the end of the day, this story says far more about the power of perception than it does about confirmed behavior. Caryn Chandler remains uncharged, unaccused, and publicly silent regarding these claims, and no verified evidence has ever emerged to support the allegations discussed. Without proof, this narrative exists in the space between curiosity and conjecture, compelling, dramatic, and emotionally charged, but ultimately unproven. It reflects how years of tension, Unresolved viewer loyalty and reality television's selective storytelling can transform suspicion into something that feels real, even when facts don't support it. As viewers, the responsibility is ours to separate implication from confirmation, speculation from reality, and emotion from evidence. Thanks for watching, and until next time.